So many of our favorites to watch. Oh look, now they're being bashed. I guess that's what we should expect on the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast. Hello everyone, we're back with another episode of the podcast. Today I'm joined by John.
Hey.
Kylan.
Hi.
And Chance.
That's me.
I expected John to go into a chatty rant there for a second, which is why I picked him first. But today's podcast episode is a little bit different. We're doing a Christmas episode, but not really one that truly fits into our Bullied nostalgia concept. And that's because
none of us are nostalgic about this movie.
well, yes, but any Christmas movie or TV show that John and I would be nostalgic about, the boys have already seen.
Yeah.
Their mom loves Christmas movies, and so they have all of them. So rather than watch a movie that John and I had some nostalgic feelings towards that the boys had already seen, this movie is something that we introduced the boys to a number of years ago. I think maybe 5 years ago or so.
And so now whenever we want to ruin the Christmas season, we get together and we watch this movie.
Today's episode is going to be based on a movie called Christmas in Wonderland, which is a movie from 2007 that is essentially Home Alone if it took place in West Edmonton Mall. West Edmonton Mall is the largest mall in North America. It's only about a 4.5 hour drive from where we live.
And while this movie doesn't carry nostalgia for us, the mall does.
Yes, so certainly there are references throughout the movie.
To Booster Juice.
Well, let's not spoil the only thing John wants to talk about later. Yes, so this movie certainly has a decent amount of nostalgia baked into it, even though it means nothing to any of our childhoods. We would have watched this movie initially pretty close to when it came out, John and Robin and I. And then John and I would introduce it to the boys probably about 5 years ago. And we're back.
Awesome. Can't get enough.
So it's that time of the podcast. Chance, why don't you tell us what this movie is about?
Alright, so the movie starts out with a father and his 3 children. Their mom is not able to come for Christmas that year because she is held up at a flight, so they have to go get presents by themselves.
Also, the family is broke.
The dad decides to leave the kids by themselves with Santa while he goes and gets presents. As it turns out, the eldest son decides to abandon Mary and Brian in order to go do his own thing.
And find women.
And find women, yes.
Women.
Women.
It's like you're trying to say ramen.
Salmon.
Well, Mary and Brian encounter a gang of thugs who have this long plan in order to use counterfeit money in order to make a lot of money through tricking them into giving them cash back. Yep. But Mary and Brian accidentally end up with the $1 million in cash they have. So then shenanigans occur. Dad gets blamed for a counterfeiting rig. The goons try to capture Mary and Brian. Eventually the eldest gets captured. And then it ends with a final Mary and Brian versus the thugs in a Home Alone-esque duel where eventually the thugs are captured and Mary and Brian get off scot-free.
I do have an issue with the Home Alone duel thing because it's barely planned beforehand.
Well, like, that's the thing. We can get into that.
This is Home Alone. There's so many tropes that it pulls directly from, right? In Home Alone, Mom is trying to get her way back to Kevin. She's at the airport. She does anything to try and travel back and make it to him in time. She arrives on Christmas morning to see him. In Home Alone movies, the kid, or Kevin McAllister, will befriend an old person, often with an animal gimmick like the lady with the doves, and they'll protect him. In this movie, the bad guys are chasing them through the basement, and an old man with a wolf defends
But it's just
Mary.
a dog.
She befriends him.
His name is Bob.
There's the gimmicks where he lays out fish for Chris Kattan to slip on into a shark tank and stuff like that.
Ping pong balls.
Ping pong golf balls, exactly. Every part of this is borrowed from Home Alone. People have brought that up a bunch of times as to why these actors and actresses would sign on to do this bad movie. The reason for me is if you were to tell me you were making the next Home Alone movie, but you up the ante by having it in the largest mall in the world, that on paper seems like a winning formula.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell because of some of the actors they have. Like they have Tim Curry, Chris Kattan,
Patrick Swayze.
Yep. And those are some...
Carmen Electra.
It's very loud.
Matthew Walker.
They have some pretty
Knight.
big hitters.
Oh no, yeah.
Matthew Knight, yeah.
And some of them, unfortunately, are wasted a little bit. Probably the biggest offense to this is Tim Curry.
His whole role is a reoccurring joke that he misremembers or mispronounces people's names. And it's not a funny joke the first time.
And then the 80th time,
Yeah.
it's really
It's
frustrating.
really grinding.
Mm-hmm.
It's very long.
Yeah.
Largely, there's some really good actors in this movie that are doing their best with a script that baffles me. To say that someone was paid to write it. It's very bad.
I think it was really funny watching Tim Curry try to give a compliment to this movie at some point.
Yeah, we watched the
The cast interviews.
cast interviews after the movie, and you can tell there's some really interesting views on it. I personally found Chris Kattan's view of the movie hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, Chris was just joking. Why did you want to do this movie? And he said, it's filmed in color, so that's exciting. So there's one character that we never talk about, and that's Shane.
Shane, yeah.
The love interest for the eldest son. She's played by Mackenzie Porter, who is the younger sister of Kaylin Porter.
Oh my goodness.
This is several layers deep into this conversation. Kylan, her older brother, affected the spelling of your name.
No!
He was the winner of Canadian Idol, season 4. And I wanted to spell your name Kai, but Kaylin Porter was pretty popular at the time. And your mom was nervous that people would mispronounce your name as Kaylin instead of Kylan. So this family is to blame for that guy. She, as an adult, would be in the show Travelers, which I, of course, have a bias to because it's a time travel show. But in Travelers, people from the future, in an effort to save the world, send their consciousness back into the bodies of people now. So it's supposed to be people who were about to die. And so then they send their consciousness back into this person so that they can change the timeline for the better using a body to someone who wouldn't be alive to use it anyways. And she is one of the main characters in it. She plays a mentally disabled woman who gets taken by a brilliant surgeon from the future. And it's a fascinating storyline because of everything she has to overcome as one of the smartest people on Earth who, up until this moment, has been mentally disabled. She is very good in that TV show, and it's interesting to see her here. This is her very first thing on IMDb. She is one of the people that when I see this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, it's great to have her here. The kid who it's not great to have is the kid from X-Men 3. That kid is just
Bad.
Nothing.
It's really easy to do an impression of him. You just have to say everything like you don't have a heart or soul.
Yeah, monotone, bored.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny, though, when he says something that's supposed to be like, really risque, but he says it like, this sucks royal cojones, which is his catchphrase, by the way.
Yeah, sucks royal cojones gets used so many times in this movie. I'm not sure if they were trying to start a trend or if there was some cool speech going on in Edmonton that I missed out on.
It would have been in Los Angeles.
You think that this movie was written by someone in Los Angeles?
Who came to Edmonton for 3 days? Yes, I do.
Okay, so as Chance said, this movie it takes place in West Edmonton Mall, but the problem with filming in West Edmonton Mall is, if you know anything about northern Alberta, there's a lot of winter here.
Yep.
Lots of snow.
We get 6 months of snow in Alberta.
7.
7 on occasion.
8,
So
9, it's fine. It's lots. So a hurdle that this movie had to deal with was that this is the biggest mall in North America. So them trying to film at Christmas time would have been a disaster. There had been too many crowds. They would not have been able to successfully pull it off. So instead, they opted to film it during the summer. What that means is that the movie has to explain away why there's no snow in a very snowy location. It says it's the warmest winter ever.
It's like a radio. It's like, yes, we are in a heat wave.
No one knew that this movie was coming. So it was very confusing for Edmontonians because West Edmonton Mall just never took down their Christmas decorations. So it's still May, it's still June, and people are like, why is it decorated for Christmas here? And then it would slip into the media that they were going to film a movie there. But they just left the Christmas decorations up for half the year.
I'm trying to remember how much we knew about this movie before even a trailer was out. Like, I feel like I got excited about the premise of this movie, or that we had a Alberta representation.
Yeah, I feel like I remember being there when it was not Christmas, but there was Christmas decorations. Yeah. Beyond that, it's muddy. I remember buying this in West Edmonton Mall, and I remember watching that, the three of us. Mm-hmm. But before that, I don't remember how this came into our lives.
It's kind of strange to think that this is one of the few movies that takes place where it's being filmed. You know, like if you have a movie in Chicago, it's probably in Vancouver.
Yeah, we do film quite a few movies in Canada just because it's a lot cheaper here. Mm-hmm. But it's very rare that a movie takes place in Canada.
Sure. I could not find any data about how much this movie cost to make.
How many dollars did it make? 2 digits?
The $20 Dad spent buying this movie.
Well, yeah, we don't know what DVD sales were or anything like that. All we know is its box office run.
It went in theaters?
Yes. In Canada.
How much?
Any guesses?
I'm saying... I think it's $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to go $200,000.
I think like 750,000.
Very close. The numbers are muddy. They're a little different depending on what website you go to. But I have a box office of $772,386. I'm sure it didn't make money.
Oh no, paying one of those actors would cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think is there is so much brand advertising in this movie.
They make up for it.
That maybe that made up something, but definitely this movie is not a success.
Brand deals from Sony and Microsoft in the same movie.
And
that
Apple,
deserves an award.
Tim Hortons,
Booster Juice,
WestJet, Cyanide.
My favorite product. Can you imagine all the cyanide distributors out there? We'll pay $500,000 if you try and get someone to say they want to have some cyanide. All right, John. Kai's referenced it twice. We all know what you want to talk about. Let's talk about booster juice.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most exciting part of the movie for me is I really like booster juice, and
Some characters talk nearby booster juice.
well, they do more than that.
They say the words booster juice.
Yeah, she says, "Do you want to go get some booster juice?" Then they get some booster juice. They sit down and they drink the booster juice. I don't know if they actually drink it, but they hold it in their hands.
Yeah, you were analyzing what cups they were using, right?
Yeah, this was back. It's only been in recent years that booster juice has moved to like the purple biodegradable straws and stuff like that. But
The history of booster juice.
You guys thought we were here for the movie. We're here for John's documentation.
the cups were definitely the old styrofoam cups.
You
so.
can pinpoint the date that this was filmed.
That's right. Based on the branding of booster juice. This movie came out when I was Chance's age.
Booster Juice was created in Sherwood Park and is 375 locations around Canada, but only 2 in the United States. Essentially, it's 2 people from Los Angeles who are meeting for the first time, and she says, "Want to go to Booster Juice?" And he's like, "Yeah." But they've both only been in Canada for a
2
very...
days or
He's
2
been there
weeks.
for 54 hours. And 37 minutes.
And it's clearly that was a paid advertisement. No Americans would even know what they're talking about. I'm proud of the institution of Booster Juice. We made it. It's a local company. It's one of those things that just comes off so forced.
It really does.
So,
Would you like to get a booster juice?
their siblings are missing.
They're
And
both
she
missing.
says, "You want to go look for them at Booster Juice?" And then they just go and have drinks. And
Yeah, I'm not sure if the movie's intended to be for a Canadian audience or if it's intended to be for an American audience or both.
Okay, they do start off by just talking about how terrible Canada is. They're like, "Man, I have no idea what they're saying. I need a lobotomy to listen to what they're saying." The Santa magic trick. So the dad is sitting in a bar, upset because he's broke, and he turns around and Santa's there. And Santa's talking about how when the dad was younger, he got a pony for Christmas or something. But that scene ends with Santa dematerializing into a little blue sparkles. And it is potentially the best scene in the entire movie.
good special effects.
Yeah, he's being beamed up for sure.
I mean, there's better special effects.
We won't talk about those yet.
Okay, we're saving Red Door. This is a family movie. This is about warming your heart and seeing how loving this family is during the Christmas season.
We should know.
Which is
Tim
really
Curry told
strange
us.
considering how much they hate each other.
Everyone in this movie hates each other. It's true. What a
really-
sarcastic, rude, malicious, and evil group of people that Patrick Swayze has spawned.
And it's so funny because there's a scene right at the beginning of the movie where Brian says something. And Patrick Swayze literally says, "You're not my kid."
I think there's an underlying theme that they did not intend, that those kids are adopted. And he's like the evil stepfather in a Cinderella story.
And his
Yeah.
sons are equally terrible, being negligent.
At least he didn't make pancakes with whole eggshells.
It's true,
Yeah,
Patrick
that was very
Swayze does make a
weird.
pancake, or he puts an entire egg in it.
No,
Shell
no,
and
no.
all.
No. He cracks the egg, lets the yolk and then
He
the
just
whites in,
throws
and then he
the shells in
throws
with
the
it.
shells in.
He made a second batch without eggshells. The eggshell batch was
Oh,
for the
just
other
for the
two.
boys.
Yeah.
That tracks. John, having done some work with social work, do you have any thoughts about Patrick Swayze's parenting in this movie?
I'm not a parent, so I can.
I learned everything I know about parenting from this movie.
Yeah.
Shut up, Chance.
Yeah, he is the worst, isn't he, Dad?
Yeah, I think there's the one scene at the start where his eldest son doesn't want to go to the mall, so he says, "If you don't go to the mall, you're going to wreck Christmas for everyone."
And I'm not going to buy you an Xbox. That's the part that gets him going.
That's
Yeah.
gaslighting.
He does gaslight his kid, for sure. I laughed for about 3 minutes near the end of this movie when the two brothers have learned some semblance of a lesson. And one of them says, "I'm sorry, Dad, this is all my fault." And then the other kid says, "No, Dad, it's my fault." And then in any other movie, the dad would have been like, either it's nobody's fault or it's all of our faults or something like that. Instead, he's like, "Yes, no, it's both of your faults." It's like, what?
Mary, I'm so glad.
And
that
it's
you're
so
okay.
funny after he just like cradles Mary in his arms, throws her in the air, picks her up, that kind of thing, and then he immediately scolds his sons.
Mary is two people.
Yeah, John made a discovery that the girl who plays Mary is actually more than one girl.
It's a set of twins.
And we watched an interview, and one of them was taking it seriously. The other one was hyperactive and slumping in their chair. And I get the impression.
And probably picked the two of them out when they're in different scenes.
Now I kind of want to go back for another session and see if I can tell which one's which. Who's with me?
Well, it's interesting. So with Full House, they had the Mary Kate and Ashley twins. I feel like I learned there was a reason for that at one time.
Yeah, it's a law. Child exploitation. Essentially, you can't have a child that young on TV that much. It's against the law. So the way of sidestepping it is to have two.
That can't be the reason nowadays for this movie, I don't
I
think.
have no idea.
Yeah. It would be a lot more work to try and get two people into the same character.
I guess they'd only have to learn half as many lines.
Oh, that's true.
Talked about all
Mary, there's definitely some premeditated
murder
attempts here.
She nearly hammered her hand to a light.
Well, not just that. So, for context, the little
revenge
6-year-old
sequence.
girl leads one of the bad guys, played by Carmen Electra, onto the roof of one of the domes. So she gets there ahead of time, and she uses a hammer and bashes out the window so that Carmen Electra steps on it and then falls to, presumably, her death.
She got lucky. She landed in the
It's in
sea
the
lion.
seal enclosure. Yeah.
But she's not that far from a wall or
The
the
floor.
platform where the sea lions stand on. There's no way that 6-year-old kid was like, "I'm picking this window because she'll live."
Everyone wants to talk about it.
Everyone wants to talk about it. There's one scene in this movie that is notorious. Anyone can forget anything about this movie except one scene.
You will never forget this.
It's in your nightmares. Santa Claus is disguised as a janitor.
He's
He's
disguised,
disguised as
seven
everyone
people.
in this movie, even Mary.
No, but in this specific part, he's disguised as a janitor, and he tells them the way to get out, and he says, "Take the door at the top of the staircase. Do not open the red door." Brian ignores his instructions and lets out an evil.
He opens the red door, and it's possibly the worst CG'd room I've ever seen in my life.
Spoiler alert, this movie implies that the reason why no one's ever found Santa Claus at the North Pole is because Santa Claus
Doesn't live
operates out of West Edmonton.
I don't
He
think it
built it,
implies that.
apparently.
I think it just says that.
One of the kids opens a door in the basement of West Edmonton Mall and finds Santa's workshop. And they could have opted to do it any number of ways.
Like use human beings.
They
Or
could have
money.
filmed
They could have
real
used
people.
money.
Real money.
Money.
Real money.
Instead of putting in
Effort.
Or money.
or money, or time, or energy.
Or at Sunday afternoon.
They pretty much punched in a line of code and just let an AI do whatever it wanted with it.
I could have made that room.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, you get computer graphically designed, and I use the term design very loosely, elves that just have the scariest faces.
You know,
They're smiling.
Dad,
Are they?
Brian, after he opens the door, he says, "Is this the North Pole?" And then all of the elves stare at him for a total of 15 seconds before smiling and nodding.
Yeah, they don't say anything, by the way. They just stare for like exceedingly long periods of time.
I used to dread going to the Festival of Trees. And not because I didn't enjoy the Festival of Trees, but every time we went...
There was this red door.
Practically. There was a junky motion ride.
Motion sickness, right?
Motion sickness ride, yeah. It was a tiny little booth car-shaped thing. You'd climb in, and then it would play the laziest computer graphic animation ever made.
It was Santa on a sled or something.
And then
like that.
it would just shake the box that you were in.
It was equivalent to the computer graphics at the bowling alley when you make
Oh,
a
yeah.
strike.
Yeah.
Maybe. Honestly,
I mean, like-
that's overselling it a little bit. You sit in a box and watch a TV screen,
And then the box
and the box
rotates.
shakes you. And the animation was done in 3 minutes. The worst experience. And Chance
Loved it.
loved it. He wanted to do it over and over every year. I have PTSD from this stupid ride. So the computer graphics in this movie very much resemble that.
You know, I would have been fine if when they opened that door, there was just a bunch of sea lions wearing elf hats.
Yeah, honestly.
Sea lions with elf hats would have been cute.
The sea lion is the greatest actor in this movie.
Yeah, it's really funny. There was an interview with Carmen Electra where she said the most professional actor on the set was the sea lion.
And I don't doubt it.
Yeah, straight business with that one. Especially after he tried to murder her. There's a scene where the dad tries to buy a snowblower, and the clerk trying to help
Oh
him.
no, you're making me think about the shopping scenes. I don't want to.
Not that one. What was her name, John? What was her name?
The clerk or the underwear shot?
Okay,
No, the
so
underwear lady.
we'll
What's
get
her
to-
name?
Well, you have two scenes. First things first, the dad is trying to buy
A snowblower
a snowblower.
for his wife.
And every time he mentions, I'm getting a snowblower for my wife, the woman in there says, she'll die! Sorry? I'm getting this snowblower for my wife. She'll die!
People assume that that's just like the only nice thing that she could say that's referencing that his wife won't enjoy it. What is actually happening is she's an old witch doctor.
She's
And there's
cursing
an
her.
evil curse on his wife. Okay, we're talking about it. I
John,
hate
what's
it.
her name?
I hate
What's her
it.
name?
I hate it.
The lingerie saleswoman?
Yeah.
You want to know the actress's name?
It doesn't matter. So Patrick Swayze goes into a lingerie store to buy something for his wife. It's a trope that you have to have in movies where it's really awkward for him to buy something for wife, girlfriend.
And it
and-
starts out kind of cute.
The
Because
lady.
there's a scene where Patrick Swayze is like looking around and then realizes he's very uncomfortable and his eyes like lock forward. That's a fun little.
Well, it's cute
scene.
because he's in the same pose as one of the mannequins wearing the lingerie. And then he realizes that and he stops. That is actually charming. But
it is.
then he
Followed
goes
by
and he
the
talks
worst.
Okay,
to
so
a saleswoman.
The saleswoman walks up and says, "Are you getting something for your girlfriend?" And he says, "Do I look like I have a girlfriend?"
And then the woman automatically assumes that must mean he's getting it for himself. However, he begins backpedaling and saying it's for his wife, who is currently in Los Angeles. This is a true fact. However, the saleswoman does not believe him. And the next 4 minutes is this conversation about a saleswoman trying to sell him a pair of lingerie for himself that he's trying to get for his wife.
It's very uncomfortable.
It might be the worst part of that movie.
Donut.
I don't want to. I was thinking about the donut saying. Why did they have to re-record slopping audio on top of him eating those donuts? It's so weird.
Okay, we should probably talk about
the
bad guys.
The criminals. the
Carmen
bad guys.
Electra is pretty much just a bad lady who thinks she looks pretty. The two goons. I actually put forth the idea that I actually kind of like Leonard. He's stupid annoying in that weird way that kind of like the Wet Bandits were in Home Alone. I kind of thought of him in the same way as that. Just hateful, annoying, and very small with no real threat about him other than he's a bad guy. I kind of thought that was charming in that little sense, but his associate is not interesting at all.
So, because of the Wet Bandits, you have the one guy who's annoyed and the other guy who's stupid. But in this case, the guy who's stupid is just the worst.
He's very dumb, and he is a larger man, so they make fat jokes constantly.
That is his personality.
Yeah.
Dumb and fat jokes.
There's one time where Chris Kattan falls on the ground, and then the other man does
Flies
the same thing.
down.
I remember Dad literally, while we were watching the movie, said, "Oh, here comes a squished by the fat guy joke." And as per expectation, Chris Kattan is squished by the fat guy. However, it was immediately followed by a fart joke, which none of us had expected at the time.
In retrospect, we probably should have.
Yeah.
But you lose me as soon as you do the fart joke.
You know, I'm kind of surprised that was the only fart joke in that movie.
5 stars. Only one.
4 stars, Chad.
You lose a star for every fart.
Yeah.
Are we ready to do closing comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I had less fun with this episode than I expected.
I think we had way more fun when we were watching the movie.
Yeah, I did laugh a lot during the movie and even afterwards.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a downside. Normally we don't all watch together, right? Normally we watch these individually and we come back with our shared thoughts. But my joy for this movie expired about an hour ago.
Yeah. I think there was one joke at the very end in which Kylan was trying to...
Find an end credit scene.
Yeah, Kylan was making sure there was an end credit scene, to which Dad replied, "This isn't a Marvel movie." And then I commented afterward, "Santa opening the red door. Fine, I'll do it myself." Which I think we laughed for about 5 minutes straight about that one. And that was probably the most joy we had watching this movie, is when it was over.
It's still pretty funny in retrospect. He'd like take each one of those fugly computer graphic elves and put them in his gauntlet.
Like their face in the entire elf.
No,
He turns them into hamburger.
remember at the beginning when the decoration is of Santa with his face on his hand? That's foreshadowing to him put the elf faces on his gauntlet.
Okay, closing comments.
Okay. I think that you probably should watch this movie for yourself if you can.
No.
No, actually, I agree with
We
Kylan.
should put this at the start, okay? Before you watch this, watch it for yourself. It's way more fun to watch than it is to listen to somebody talk about this movie.
Yeah, this movie is bad, and I hope I will never watch it again. But
It just
I
not
will
fun.
also say that I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you've never seen this movie. If you're a Western Canadian who's ever been to West Edmonton Mall, watch this movie, and then
Forget about it. Instead of watching it three more times.
if you want to watch it, I have a copy that I can give you.
Just send us your address.
Actually, Tim doesn't own very many DVDs, and so the
This
fact
is
that
the
he has
only one.
held on to this DVD lets me know that this isn't the last time we're watching it. That there will be another Christmas coming up where he'll say, "Oh, what about this one?"
There is a term coined called...
Is this an Arlo?
This isn't actually from Arlo. This is from a different guy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's not stating who it's from.
I will. I'll state who
There's
it's from.
several other puppets he could
This
reference.
is somebody
It's
actually...
from Kermit.
This is somebody...
It's not easy being green. There's a saying that he coined.
It's a saying that Cookie Monster once said.
C is for cookie.
And that's
good
and that's
enough
what
for
I...
me.
That's what I rate this movie.
Okay. Oh, anyways. I don't actually know.
What we're gonna talk
No,
about.
okay. There's guy. I think I actually showed him to you once. We watched a video of his. This guy by the name of Super Eye Patch Wolf. We watched the Garfield one.
Oh, yes. Yep.
I don't know if he coined this term, but it's something I remember hearing him say. It was something called the mediocre valley. It's like an upside-down bell curve is the idea. If a movie is between 7 through 10, it is a great movie. If a movie is between 3 through 5, it is a movie that is just so nothing, it's not enjoyable. But when a movie is between 3 through 1, it's a movie that's so hilariously bad that you want to watch it. Like the king of these being The Room, which is possibly the worst movie of all time, but is so spectacularly horrible that you should watch it.
I don't think this movie is bad. It's not good. It just, any of its redemptive qualities are ones that are best viewed in a sarcastic mindset.
I think I'm going to rate this right now as a solid 3.
3?
Out of 10 on that.
3 out of cookie.
3 out of cookie.
That's good enough for me.
And that's quite low on the spectrum, but
Our new rating scale that we've never used.
We just
cookie out of monster.
I'd say that this one is a gingerbread, if I dare say so myself.
All right, John, what do you want to say about this movie?
Yeah, I'll see it again probably.
7 more times!
Not because I want to. It'd be...
Last episode, you said you would never watch Quest for Camelot again, but you're gonna watch this one again?
Not because I want to. I will not be putting this in a DVD player. My brother will be.
John will be chained to the couch.
You know, John never throws things away. But the one DVD he wants to throw away, we won't.
That's something very interesting. John is not the type of person to lose anything with sentimental value. This movie has a lot of sentimental value,
and
yet
he
John
wants it gone.
Still wants it out of the house. It really says something about this movie.
Okay, so Kai, where did you stand with it again?
I'd say it's a gingerbread.
Okay, we're getting a gingerbread. We're getting a 3 out of cookie. I will say, if you haven't watched it before, you should. If you have, like we have, I do not suggest watching it again.
You've suffered enough.
And John can't wait for next Christmas to give it another try. Anything people want to say to close?
We forgot to talk about something. The song, Christmas in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, the song for this movie pretty much is an emblem of what the rest of the movie is.
Boring and homogenized.
It's very bad, and on the menu screen for this DVD,
It lasts for like
plays
30
the chorus
seconds.
over and over and over and over and over again. It's not fun.
It sucks royal cojones.
Gross.
Is this our new phrase?
No, absolutely not. Dad, what's your rating for
John
this?
is just not into this today.
This entire
Last
thing.
episode, he was so determined to be chatty.
This
and he
time
said he was gonna run over everything that we said, and here he is, put in his input about booster juice, and he tapped out.
Dad, what do you have to say about this movie?
I have nothing else to say about this movie. All
What
I
rating
can
do you
do
give
is...
it?
I'll watch it again.
Oh, no, I said that my rating is always how much I'll watch it, right?
Right.
Sometimes I'll say, I will come back to this in 5 years.
Mm.
I will come back to this when someone else is watching it. We said we got this in 2007, which I don't know that we did, but we've watched it 3 times. That means that we've watched it every 5 years. So I guess, as much as I don't want to ever watch this again, history has
years.
taught me that we'll see
History
this
repeats
again.
itself.
Yeah, other than that, all I have to do is share some friendly advice, and that's look out for weirdos.
Look out for weirdos.
Look out for weirdos.